Hola, ¿cómo está? Let me know if you guys cannot hear me. If you can hear me, leave me a comment. But if you can't hear me, please let me know. First and foremost, I want to say happy birthday to my brother Jay. He committed suicide back in 2020, and he would have been 28 today. So yeah, rest in peace to him and happy birthday to him. So yeah, today's message is going to be about trusting God when life gives you every reason not to. And I know from experience, I know from experience how hard it is when you're doing right by God. You're doing your best to live by the fruits of the Spirit and be a better person and repent when you fall short. And even so, even though you're being obedient, your life is still falling apart. That will make you question everything, including God. And it will make you have trust issues with God because you're like, God, I'm doing everything you're asking me to do. Why does it feel like you've forsaken me? Instead of things getting better, they keep getting worse. And even when that's your situation, even when that's your circumstance, you still have to trust God. It's easy to trust God when you think you know what He's going to do. It's easy to trust God when things are going your way. But when shit hits the fan and you don't know what's next, it's a lot of uncertainty. That can make you, that can make you, that can make it hard for you to trust God. And I've been through it all. Over the past year and a half, over the past year and a half, life has given me every reason not to trust God. It's one thing if your life is falling apart due to you being disobedient and wilding out. In that case, you can't you can't expect God to bless your life. If you're wilding out, you're not seeking Him, you're not living by the fruits of the Spirit, you can't be surprised when your life is falling apart. But when it's the opposite, it's like it's at first, when I first gave my life to God, it was peaches and cream, rainbows and butterflies. It was beautiful. I was like, oh my God. Like, I was kind of just in bliss, in euphoria. Like, and not long after, I would say probably like close to a year after. So I had a whole year where I was just like, oh, I'm so in love with God. Life is amazing. God is amazing. Like everything is just peaches and cream. That lasted for almost a year. But after that, I entered into the wilderness. I entered into the wilderness. And God warned me that I was going to be in the wilderness. But I was just thinking, like, oh, that's a cute little coincidence. One of I don't remember when it was exactly, but before I moved to Atlanta, I was driving. I took a road trip to Atlanta by myself. And when I was driving back to Ohio, before I moved here, I drove back to Ohio. And it was late at night, and I'm driving on the freeway. And I'm almost out of gas. And I'm like praying. I'm like, God, please don't let me run out of gas. Please let me come across a gas station. Please let there be an exit coming up where I can get some gas. Because I was driving for a while and there were no exits. So I'm like, what the hell? So I was getting a little nervous. And I finally see an exit. So I get off at that exit. Guess what the name of the street to the exit was? Wilderness Road. And this was before I entered into my wilderness season. But God warned me, even through dreams. So, yeah, once I entered into my wilderness season, I was taking L after L, loss after loss. I was having to surrender so many different things. I lost so many different things. And that made me question God. that definitely made me have trust issues with God because I'm like, Lord, is this a part of your big plan for me? Is this a part of your big plan for me? Suffering and struggling. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. And I was very angry at God. At one point, I was very angry at God because my circumstances were the complete opposite of what I was praying for, what I was believing in God for. Instead of things getting better, they got worse. And I was feeling so confused because I'm like, Lord, I don't understand. I don't understand why you're allowing certain things to happen. And here's the thing about trust, the definition of trust is firm belief in the reliability, ability, truth, or power of someone or something. Let me repeat that again. The definition of trust is the firm belief in the ability, reliability, truth, or power of someone or something. So if you say you trust God, that means you have firm belief in His ability, His reliability, His truth, and His power. And that includes feeling that way when things aren't going your way and you don't know what's next and you can't see how things are going to work out, how things are going to play out. You still have to trust God. So, I want to share a few stories, recent stories, where I was questioning God and doubting God. But as soon as I surrendered, and I said, you know what, Lord, I'm not going to worry about this anymore. I'm not going to worry about it no more. I'm going to just give it to you. I'm going to just surrender it to you. Each situation, He worked out in my favor. And instead of it being the worst case scenario, I ended up getting the best case scenario. And all these different examples I'm about to give. So, the first example is my car accident. Back in November, I was in a pretty bad car accident. Somebody rear-ended me on the freeway. Not only did they rear-end me on the freeway, they drove off. It was a hit and run. But fortunately, I got their license plate number. I got the vehicle and I got the license plate number. And with that information, my insurance was able to figure out the owner and their insurance company. So, long story short, I filed a claim through their insurance company. And when the accident first happened, I was devastated. I was devastated and I was angry at God because I'm like, Lord, this was not my fault. This was not my fault. I was just driving, minding my business, on my way to go pick up my dinner. And boom, somebody who was driving recklessly, because before this person hit me, I saw them in my rearview mirror switching lanes, getting around cars, like driving fast. And as soon as this person switched into my lane, as soon as this person switched into my lane, boom, rear-ended me. And then they switched into the other lane and then they drove off. Like I said, I got that license plate number. Thank God. And that was a blessing in itself because unfortunately, hit and runs are really common here in Atlanta. They do not know how to drive. They drive crazy and they be doing hit and runs, and a lot of people be driving without insurance. So that was a blessing too, that the person, even though it was a hit and run, the person did have insurance. And here's the thing, it was a brand new BMW truck. That's why I'm like, why did that person do that? Long story short, the reason why the person did a hit and run is because the person who was driving wasn't the owner of the vehicle. It was the owner's boyfriend. So the owner was a woman and her boyfriend was driving and he was the one who hit me. So because of that, there was so many things. Not only was I angry at God for allowing that to happen, there was so many things I was worried about revolving the accident. The fact that it was a hit and run. I'm like, even though I know I got the license plate number, even though I know I remember the vehicle, even though I have this person's name and insurance and all their information, what if their insurance gives me a hard time? What if they try to lie and be like, oh, I never hit her. I don't know what she's talking about, blah, blah, blah. there was so many worries and anxieties I had surrounding that because, like I said, it was a hit and run. And on top of that, I'm like, well, what if the driver wasn't the owner of the vehicle? And because of that, the insurance is like, oh, well, we're not going to cover it because the person who was driving isn't on the policy. I had all these worries when the accident first happened. And I was really angry at God for a few days. I was devastated. I was just like, I was I was like, why me? Why me? Out of all the people that person could have hit, why did you let them hit me, God? And I'm like, it's not like, oh, my life was going great and just this one bad thing happened. I'm like, nigga, I've been in the wilderness for like 2 years. I've been in the wilderness for like 2 years. So it's like, I was already going through a lot prior to the accident. So that just piled on and added on to it. So I'm just like, God, I don't understand. Why would you allow this to happen? So on top of that, I had all these different worries because I'm like I said, I'm like, 9 times out of 10, the person who was driving probably isn't on the insurance policy. So what if the insurance says, oh, we're not going to cover it? I had all these different fears, all these different worries. I'm gonna have, even though my car was still drivable, surprisingly, even though it was still drivable, it was so messed up. I knew they were gonna say it was a total loss. So even though the car was still drivable, I knew they were gonna say it was a total loss. So I'm like, damn, I'm gonna have to get a new car too. Like all these different worries and anxieties and fears I had surrounding around this accident. So, long story short, oh shoot, hold on. Oh, sorry, y'all. A little snot came out of my nose. Ooh, I know that's gross. uh, okay, it's not snot. It was just I sneezed a little bit, but yeah. So actually, I'm actually still going to the chiropractor, and I haven't got the settlement yet. However, things are things are working out in my favor. Even though the settlement isn't over and I'm still being treated, it's looking like it's a blessing in disguise. I can't believe I'm saying that, but the car accident, everything I went through, because by the way, I had injuries. I had intense back pain, lower back pain, and my neck. Like for a couple days, I couldn't really move my neck to this side. But yeah, I was in so much pain. So I had to get medical treatment. Like I'm still going to the chiropractor as we speak. And when it first happened, I was in so much pain. I had to drive with a little pillow behind my back. I had to drive with a little pillow behind my back for like a month. And even when I would carry stuff, my back would start hurting. There was one point my back started hurting so bad I started crying and I was just angry all over again. Like, God, why? Why are you doing this? Are you punishing me for something that I'm not aware of? Like, I don't understand. I'm telling y'all, that's why I was away for like a little over a month. That's why I didn't post any videos for a little over a month because I was going through it and I had to get my mind right. But yeah, everything that I went through revolving around this accident is, from the looks of it, it's going to be a blessing in disguise. Like, for example, my lawyer called me and she was like, have they totaled out the car yet? Like, have they given you a check? And I'm like, no, they haven't. I already got a new car because I wasn't going to keep waiting on them. They told me it was going to be a total loss, but they didn't tell me how much they were going to give me. They didn't cut me a check yet. So I'm asking her, like, I'm like, I mean, I didn't ask her. I told her, I'm like, they probably only gonna give me like 1,000 for my car because my car is a 2009 and it had 312,000 miles on it. So I know they probably only gonna give me like 1,000 for the car. That's not enough for me to buy a new car. Like I already bought a new car, but I had to pay all that out of pocket, out of my pocket. It's not no car payment or nothing. So I'm like, yeah, I'll be lucky if I get $1,000 for the car. And she was like, no, no, no. We're seeking punitive damages. I was like, oh, okay. I'm gonna be real. I didn't know what the hell that was. I'm like, what is punitive damages? But she was like, we're gonna seek punitive damages since it was a hit and run. I was like, oh, okay. She was like, so you're definitely gonna get more than $1,000 for your car. And that's gonna be separate from the settlement for the injuries and the pain and suffering. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, do your thing. So she reached out to the other person's insurance. By the way, thankfully, the insurance company did accept liability, even though it was the boyfriend who was driving and it wasn't the owner, and the boyfriend wasn't on the policy. The insurance company still accepted liability, and I was surprised. I'm like, oh wow. But yeah, anyway, so she was like, I'm gonna send over something to like request punitive damages. And she sent something over to the insurance company. They sent her an offer back probably like a couple hours later. They sent her an offer back, and I was surprised by the amount. I was like, damn, and that's just gonna be for my car? My car wasn't even worth that much. Like, and she was like, yeah, but we think we can get you more than that. And I was like, oh, okay. Because with the amount that she told me, I was like, I would be cool with that. Like, if that's just for the vehicle damages and not for like the settlement for the injuries and everything else, I was like, I'm cool with that amount. She was like, no, you deserve more than that for everything you've been through. And we know we can get you more. So, no, we're not going to accept that. That's too low. And I was like, okay, well, do your thing. But yeah, so I'm still waiting to hear back on that. But like I said, from the looks of it, after how long ago did the accident happen? It happened a little over 2 months ago. After a little over 2 months, things are starting to work out in my favor and things are starting to turn around. And yeah, so I don't really want to talk too much about that because, like I said, I'm still dealing with it right now. But what I thought was the worst thing that could happen to me turns out to be a blessing in disguise. It's about to be a huge blessing in disguise. And I don't want to really get into the specifics because I do like to keep some things private. But let's just say that settlement money and the money for the punitive damages, that's gonna make a tremendous difference in my life. Like that is going to that's going to help me a lot. Let's just say that. And it's going to make up for everything that I've lost over the past 2 years. So I'm like, you know what, Lord? I think I'm starting to see what you're doing. Like at first I thought it was the worst thing in the world. But now I'm realizing it's actually a blessing in disguise. So thank you. It seems like all the pain and the suffering and everything that I went through is about to pay off. And mind you, even though at first I was worrying, like, oh my God, like, what if things don't work out? What if this person gets away? What if? There was a point before I knew that things were going to work out in my favor. There was a point where I was like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. If I say I trust God, that means I got to trust God. I can't say I trust God and pray and right after that, I start worrying. I start trying to figure out how things are going to work out or I start thinking that things aren't going to work out. And I start thinking the worst case scenario. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. Lord, I'm surrendering this to you. You know, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything to deserve this. Therefore, I trust you to redeem me and turn things around. So, yeah, that's one example. But also, oh, mind you, I've been hit 4 times in 1 year. In the year 2025, I was hit 4 different times living here in Atlanta. That's why I'm like, I love Atlanta, but I also hate Atlanta because people do not know how to drive here. They drive so recklessly and crazy. But yeah, I was hit 4 times in 1 year. 4 times. And three of those times were hit and runs. This just happened to be the biggest one and the only one that I actually got the license plate for. But yeah, I'm like, Lord, that was another reason why I was angry at God because I'm like, God, why do you keep letting this happen? Like, I could see if I was hitting people, But people keep hitting me. I've been hit 4 freaking times in 1 year. Lord, what is going on? But like I said, he's about to make up for it. Even though everything isn't like completely settled and finished, I'm starting to see and realize what he was doing all along. And here's the thing: you can't have a testimony without a test. And with me being a leader and me doing what I do, sharing these messages, God gonna have to give me some tests so then I can come to y'all with a testimony. And once I do get the settlement and everything is finished, I'm gonna come on here and praise God and I'm gonna give my testimony. And so don't worry, I'm gonna let y'all know. I'm gonna keep y'all up to date. I'm gonna keep y'all in the loop. But yeah, I was hit 4 different times in 1 year. And here's the crazy thing: two different guys on 2 different days. Matter of fact, this was like months apart. Two different guys came up to me at the gym and they both said similar things to me. Mind you, these men don't know me. They don't know nothing about me, never had a conversation with me, nothing. Two different guys came up to me at the gym on 2 different occasions, and they both pretty much said everything that you've gone through and everything that you're going through, God is going to make up for it as if it never happened. God is going to make it, God is going to make up for everything you've been through, and it's going to be almost like it never happened. And I was like, Lord, I'm gonna trust that you're speaking to me through these dudes because both of them gave me similar messages months apart, and neither of them know me and they don't know each other. And now I'm starting to see the things what those two dudes said to me. I'm starting to see that come into fruition, and it's just amazing. And like I said, my faith hasn't been the strongest. I've had moments of doubt. I've had moments where I was angry at God. I've had moments where I was questioning everything, and I've had my moments, but I always pull myself back. I always bring myself back to that faith, that mustard seed of faith. Because that's really the point I'm at now. Like sometimes life beats you down so much and you have so many tests, so many trials and tribulations to the point where all you have left is a mustard seed. All you have left is a mustard seed. And that's literally where I was at. I'm like, look, all I have left is a mustard seed, but that small little mustard seed I had left was so strong. It's so strong. And that's why, things are finally starting to turn around, but it's taken a while. It's taken a very long time. So that's another thing. You have to be patient with God. Not only do you have to trust God, but you have to be patient. You have to be patient for his plans for you to unfold. And that's a part of trust too, is being patient. Even though things look crazy right now, I trust that things are going to get better in God's timing. And I just have to trust whatever that timing is. I'm looking down at my notes. If you see me looking down, I'm looking down at my notes. Let me take a sip of water. And I'm sorry I haven't read you guys' chats. Is that what you call it? I haven't read the comments or chat or whatever because I don't want to get distracted. But I apologize, and I just want to say hi to everybody. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new, welcome. And if you're not new, welcome back. And I hope you come back again. But yeah. Oh, another situation. This is another recent situation. So probably back in September, like 2 months before my accident, I got pulled over. And the reason why I got pulled over is because of my brake light. But in the process of him giving me a ticket for my brake light, he's like, I see you have Ohio plates. You have Ohio plates, but you have a Georgia's license. And I'm like, yeah, my car is still registered in Ohio, but I live in Georgia now. That was a big mistake. that was a big F up. Like, I really snitched on myself, but it's because I didn't know that I was doing anything wrong. I didn't know like it was a big deal that my car was still registered in Ohio, even though I lived in Georgia and I had a Georgia license. But I learned the hard way. So the cop goes back to the car and he was in his car for a long time. I'm like, yo, why is it taking him so long to just give me a ticket for a brake light? I don't understand. Sure enough, he came back with two tickets. One ticket was for the brake light, the other ticket was for the registration. And he's like, once you move to Georgia, you have 30 days to register your car in Georgia. And I'm like, I didn't know that. I didn't know about this whole 30-day rule. Like, I had no idea. But he didn't care. He's like, oh, well, like, here's your ticket. Like, it is what it is. So I'm like, oh, like, something else I got to worry about. Something else, like, and again, a part of me was angry at God, but another part of me was like, Kyla, you brought it on yourself because of the brake light. Because I'm going to be real, I'm going to be honest. A cop pulled me over probably like 2 months prior to that for my brake light, but he actually let me go. He gave me a warning. He's like, get that fixed. And he didn't even say anything about my registration, right? So that was a lesson learned. I should have got it taken care of when the first cop pulled me over and gave me grace. So even though at first a part of me was mad at God, like, Lord, why? Like, I'm not really doing nothing wrong. Like, it's just a brake light. Like, why? Like, but then I was like, Kyla, this situation, you kind of brought on yourself. But I'm just like, dang, why couldn't the cop give me grace? At least on the registration. But yeah, so anyways, I'm I'm looking up like how much is the fine for not having your car registered in Georgia, blah blah blah, like Googling, like, because I'm like, how much am I gonna have to pay up? How much am I gonna have to pay for these citations? So I look up the fee or I look up the fine for the registration. And it said the fine can be anywhere from $100 to $1,000. I'm like, $1,000? I could end up paying possibly up to $1,000 because it was saying I guess it was saying it was based on how long you've lived here without it being registered. And I'm like, I've lived here for almost 2 years without the car being registered here. So I'm like, what if they end up charging me $1,000? What if they end up fining me $1,000 for this? So I was panicking. I was worried. And I know some of y'all probably gonna laugh because y'all like, it's just traffic court. Like it's just a traffic citation. Like it's not the end of the world. But other than me smoking a little Mary Jane, I'm a goody two shoe. Like I don't be getting into no trouble. Like I don't really be speeding. Like I'm pretty much like a goody two shoe. Like I've never had to go to traffic court. Like the only time I had to go to court was for a car accident a long time ago. But yeah, I've never had to go to traffic court or anything like that. So I was terrified, and I was more terrified because I'm like, how much am I going to have to end up paying for these two citations? And on top of that, I'm like, in order for me to get the car registered here, I would have to get certain things fixed on it. So after it's all said and done, if I want to get this car registered here, I'm gonna end up paying like $2,500 at the least, at the bare minimum. So I'm like, this car got 300 some thousand miles on it, and it's a 2009. I don't want to have to pay $2,500 just to get it registered here when I don't know how much longer the car is going to keep running. So I'm just stressed out because I'm like, what am I going to do about? Because that was another thing. At first, I thought I could just pay the tickets online, and I kept trying to like pay the tickets online, and they wouldn't pull up. 2 days before my court date, and here's the thing: the cop, he kind of effed me over because when he gave me the citations, he was like, if you just pay the citations online, if you just pay the citations online, you won't have to go to court. Like if you pay them before your court date, you won't have to go to court. So I'm like, all right, cool, I'm gonna just pay them. So I kept trying to pull up the tickets online so I could pay them, but I couldn't. Like they weren't pulling up for some reason. 2 days before my court date, and I apologize for the lighting. The sun is moving around, so yeah, I apologize for the lighting. But yeah, 2 days before my court date, I find out you can't pay it online. You have to go to court. Like it's certain, I guess it's certain citations or tickets that you can't just pay online. You got to go to court. So I'm like, fuck. Excuse my language, but I'm like, fuck. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't want to have to go to court. So I had to postpone it. I had to do what is it called? A failure to appear. Ah, failure. I don't know why I can't say it. Hold on, I need some water, y'all. But yeah, I did a failure to appear. Why can't I say that? Failure to appear in court. There, finally. I had to fill out one of those forms because I'm like, look, it's 2 days before my court date. Y'all really think I'm gonna be able to get here at 8 o'clock? And I'm finding out 2 days before. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to do a failure to appear like in court form and get it postponed. And here, God is so strategic. God is so intentional. When I got those tickets, that was back in September, and I was stressed out thinking about like, what am I going to do with the car? Like, it's too much money to get it registered here, and the car has so many miles on it. Like, I don't want to spend all that money, and then the car like finally breaks down for good. So I'm just stressed out. And then, so this happened in September. Then in November, that's when I got into the car accident. Right? It's crazy how these two things are kind of intertwined. And it just shows you how strategic God is. So, got into the accident in November, right? Like I said, they declare my car a total loss. So, I ended up getting a new car. And my new court date was January 20th. So, my court date, it was like a week ago. So, I go to my court date, right? And probably like a couple days prior to my court date, I was like, you know what, Lord? I don't know what's gonna happen. Cause that was another thing. I was a little worried, like, what if like something happens to where they're like, oh, we're gonna suspend your license? Like, I was just thinking a worst case scenario. I was worrying and stressing myself to death. I was stressing and worrying myself to death. So I'm like, what if I lose my license? My license gets suspended, blah, blah, blah. Just worrying about all this different, just worst case scenarios, just being dramatic. A couple days before my court date, I was like, look, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what to expect. All I know is I'm going to just give it to you. I'm going to just surrender it to you, Lord. This is what I was telling God. I'm like, I'm going to just surrender it to you. I'm going to just give it to you. I pray you work everything out of my favor, but whatever happens, happens. I'm not going to worry about it no more. It is what it is. So the morning of my court date, right? I had to be there at 8 o'clock. And I'm driving on the way there and I'm looking at the GPS and it's saying a later time. It keeps saying a later time that I'm gonna arrive. And it was getting close to 8 o'clock. It was saying I was gonna arrive at 8:05, 8:06. I'm like, I don't want to be late because this is court, and I don't know if they're gonna be like, "Oh, you're late. You can't." Like, I didn't know what to expect. Like I said, I ain't never been to traffic court, so I'm like, a part of me was like panicking, like, "Oh, I can't be late to court." But then I was like, "I'm not gonna be late to court. God's gonna work everything out of my favor." I was, oh, excuse me, I just burped. I was literally having to coach myself, literally coaching myself as I'm driving to court. Like, no, you're gonna be on time. Everything's gonna work out. Even if you are a couple minutes late, it's not gonna be a big deal. Everything's gonna work out. And then when I get to the courthouse, I'm like, okay, I gotta find a parking spot. So I'm like, God, please let there be a closed parking spot where I don't have to pay, where I can just, go right into court. Guess what? I got the last parking spot that was open by the courthouse. I got the last open parking spot. Boom. I pull into the parking spot. I walk into the courthouse at 8:01. So I was a minute late. Walk into the courthouse at 8:01. As I'm walking to the courtroom, there was a line of people like walking into the courtroom, and I was the last person in line. So I walked in with everybody else. So long story short, I wasn't late. Even though I was technically late on paper, I wasn't late. So, and right before I went in, literally right before I stepped into the courtroom, Exodus 14:14 popped up in my head. That scripture just randomly popped up in my head. Exodus 14:14, which says, "The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent." The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent. That scripture just popped in my head for some reason because prior to my court date, I was anxious, like thinking, like, okay, what am I going to say to the judge? Like, okay, I'm gonna have to explain this and explain that. Like, I was just so nervous, like, you know, coming up with not even coming up because everything I told was the truth. But I was pretty much like being like, okay, they're probably going to ask me this question, that question. Like, I'm gonna have to explain this, I'm gonna have to explain that, the car accident, blah, blah, blah. Once the prosecutor called me up before okay, so if you've never been to traffic court, and I don't know if traffic court is the same everywhere, but before the judge calls you up, the prosecutor calls you up and pretty much ask you different things, like depending on what your case is. So one person, I guess they got a ticket for having their phone in their hand while they're driving. So the prosecutor was like, if you show me that you bought a mount for your phone for your car, we'll go ahead and dismiss it. Like, so I guess the prosecutor talks to you first, and then based on what the prosecutor says, that will determine if you have to actually stand in front of the judge and like explain yourself. So once he gets to me, once he calls my name, I walk up and he was like, so you got a ticket for your brake light and your tags. And I was like, no, I did get a ticket for my brake light, but I didn't get a ticket for my tags. I got a ticket because my car is still registered in Ohio and I just, moved here last year. I moved here last year and my car is still registered in Ohio. And he was like, well, do you have it registered here now? And I was like, no, because I got into a car accident. Somebody rear-ended me on the freeway and the car was totaled. But I do have a new car and it is registered here in Georgia. And excuse my voice, my voice is like super dry. I need to drink some water. But also I do have an anxiety disorder, so my voice does naturally like shake and crack sometimes. But so I'm like, no, that car isn't registered here because I was in a car accident. Somebody rear-ended me on the freeway. The car was totaled. And I'm like, but I do have a new car. It is registered here in Georgia. And I can like show you all the proof of that. And I can show you proof that I was in a car accident. I give you the police report number, this, that. And he's like, no, you're fine. He's like, the cop should have gave you a warning about the registration. He should have gave you time to get it registered here. And I was like, yeah, you're right. But in my mind, I'm like, actually, no, because I lived here for almost 2 years. So yeah, I should have been had it registered here. But I wasn't about to tell him that. So I was like, yeah, you're right. He was like, nah, he should have just gave you a warning and gave you time to get it registered here. And he was like, so you know what? We're gonna drop both citations. We're gonna drop the case. And I was like, huh? I'm like, what do you mean? He was like, we're gonna drop the case. You don't have to pay anything. And he was like, you're free to go. I was like, huh? I was confused because every other person, every other person that went up, not every person, but I would say probably 95% of the people that were there, they ended up having to pay something. They ended up having to go in front of the judge and talk to the judge, but I didn't. Not only did I not, not only did I not end up having to pay anything, they completely dropped the not charges because it's just traffic stuff. I don't know what you call them. That's how you know I don't be getting in trouble because I'm like they dropped the charges, but maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know what the correct term is, but long story short, they dismissed the citations. They completely erased them. Completely was just like, you know what, you're free to go. Mind you, this man didn't even ask me to show him proof, even though I offered. He didn't ask me to show him proof that I was in an accident, that the car was totaled. He didn't have me show him proof that I got a new car, even though I had the proof with me and I was ready to show him. He didn't ask for none of that. He was just like, you know what, we're going to dismiss this. You're free to go. I was like, so guess what? I didn't even have to end up talking to the judge. I didn't even have to explain all the stuff that I thought I was going to have to explain. I didn't even have to explain anything. I didn't even have to face the judge. And that's why that scripture popped in my head. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent. That means God gonna fight your battles. You don't have to do too much. You don't even really have to do anything. Just trust God. That's what I did. I literally was like, and I didn't trust God because I'm like, yeah, I know everything's gonna go my way. I still didn't know. I'm like, shit, it could go either way. Everything could work out in my favor and they could let me off easy, or they could do some crazy stuff like suspend my license. I don't know. But even so, even though I was uncertain of the outcome, oh, my armpits are sweating like crazy. Goodness gracious. Because I'm so anxious. But anyways, ignore that. Yeah, even though I didn't know what the outcome was going to be, I had this calm confidence in God. I'm like, Lord, whatever you feel the best outcome is, I trust you. Do what you do. And I was thinking to myself, like, oh, if I gotta pay like a couple hundred or like 300 or 400, I can handle that. Like, that's not too crazy. I ended up not having to pay a dime when I should have. I ended up not having to pay a dime. And that's just a testament of how good God is, but also why we need to just trust Him and stop worrying and stop thinking that He has the worst case scenario. Like, for some reason, even though we believe in God, even though we say we believe in God, and we trust God, and we have faith in God, deep down, some of us feel like God is punishing us, or God, God is going to punish us, or give us the worst case scenario, or we think about certain stuff we did in the past, and when things go wrong in our life, we're like, well, maybe this is punishment for that. And it's like, no, God, like, the fact that we have that view of God sometimes, even if we don't say it, but secretly we feel that way. We feel like we're condemned. That's not who God is. God is love. God is patient. God is kind. God is forgiving. God is merciful. God is understanding. And that's something I constantly have to remind myself. And that's something I constantly have to work on. And there's a few other situations that happened recently where I was worried because the possible outcomes, I was worried because of the possible outcomes and how things looked, and thinking about the possible outcomes of certain situations. I was worried. I was worried and I was struggling with my faith. But guess what? God ended up taking care of them. I don't want to get into certain situations because it's personal. But in those situations that happened recently, I was thinking the worst case scenario, and it ended up being the best case scenario. And I had to laugh at myself afterwards, like, Kylie, you was tripping for no reason. But right before God worked things out in each situation, I had that moment of surrender. That's what I think is important too. A part of trusting God, because people will be like, well, how do you trust God when this happens and that happens? And like, I have a hard time trusting God. I don't know how to trust God. The biggest thing to trusting God is to just surrender. Surrender. When you get to a point of surrender where you're like, God, I don't know how this is going to work out. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I don't know how this is going to play out. I don't know anything. Like, I really can't see how things are going to work out. Like, I don't know. When you get to that point where you can say that, but at the same time, you can say, but I still trust you. I surrender it to you. I surrender the outcome to you. Even though I am scared, because that's another thing. You can trust God and still have moments of fear. That's human. But it's not about being fearless. It's about being courageous, having the courage to let go, having the courage to stop obsessing over it and worrying about it, having the courage to truly give it to God. Because that takes courage. Letting go takes so much courage because a lot of times when you let go, it, it's scary because we subconsciously think if we don't take control, if we don't have control over a situation, everything is going to fall apart. But a lot of times, it's our control that's making things worse. But I'm telling you, in every situation where I completely surrendered it to God, like I was like, Lord, I don't have no other choice but to just surrender this to you. I'm tired of worrying about it. I'm tired of stressing about it. I'm tired of trying to figure out in my head how it's all gonna work out. I surrender, Lord. I surrender. Anytime I've done that, He always works things out in my favor. He always gives me the best case scenario. And guess what? Even if the worst case scenario does happen, you have to still trust that God can turn things around. And you might say, but if the worst case scenario happened, how can I trust him to turn things around? Because guess what? If you're still alive and breathing, life can always get better. Things can always get better. As long as you're alive and breathing, it's not the end. It's not over until God says it's over. So, yeah, I know I talked a really long time today. I did not expect to be on here that long, but I was so passionate about everything that God put on my heart to share. And I know I talked your ear off. I know I was kind of all over the place, but I pray this message helped you and blessed you in some way. Oh, blessed you in some way. If it did, please make sure you like it. And please make sure you subscribe so I can see you again. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.